Hi there, everybody. It is October 22nd, and I wanted to talk a little bit about paper number 2, your evaluation, since it is due in a few days on Sunday at 11:59, due on the 25th. It needs to be 1,000 words. Many of you were close to that already, but many of you just had half for the rough draft. So hopefully you've been working on it, and if not, you now have time to start revising and adding to it before you turn in the final copy. So obviously, I wrote comments individually on everybody's drafts. I have finished those. About half of you have read the comments, have opened your paper, gone back through and read them. So that's impressive. The other half of you should do so in the next couple of days so that you can see what I had to say. Many of the things are similar across the board. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this little lecture today. The first thing I want to talk about is your introduction. So you've known probably for many years now that a good first sentence of a paper is a hook. It pulls your reader into the paper. If you would like to go back to the beginnings and endings PowerPoint that is in week 6, it gives you some suggestions for how to start your essay if that's something that you need to work on. The next thing I want to talk about is your thesis sentence. The thesis is arguable. The thesis is not factual. The thesis is the last sentence of your introduction. And the thesis should be very specific and narrow and focused on the criteria and things that you will be reviewing in the paper. So what I've done actually in terms of the thesis sentence is I found 4 different thesis sentences in the rough drafts that I'm going to read. I did not write down the student's name, but I'm sort of calling out 4 individuals whose thesis sentences, one from each of the 4 sections I teach, are very good and I think could be replicated by the rest of you as you think about constructing your thesis. So here's one, and they all are a little bit different, and you'll notice that as I read, but they all have some of the same qualities, which are specificity, a fairly long sentence, because a thesis can't be short if it's specific, and a prediction of what the review will be like, what it will be about. Here's number 1. Director Julie Plessis' latest show in the TVD trilogy, Legacies, might not be what was expected, given its plot and inconsistent tone. But with the way the characters are portrayed, it has still proven to be quite interesting. Sorry, I was trying to read my own handwriting. I wrote these down, and I don't have very good handwriting. So that one mentioned the director, the show, might not be what was expected, given its plot and inconsistent tone. So there's part of the mixed review, but the characters are portrayed well, and therefore it's good to watch. So here's the next one. This one actually has a semicolon in it, so it's 2 sentences, which you can have as long as they're connected with a semicolon. So that essentially makes it 1 full sentence. The BRZ is not perfect. It lacks practicality, interior quality, and speed, but makes up for it with its outstanding handling, ease of maintenance, fuel economy, and gorgeous styling. So that particular paper actually told us exactly how we should read the paper, that this is the order in which all of the different criteria will be discussed. Here's the next one. Although its development began by only 2 people, Minecraft's availability to many platforms, methods of entertainment, educational value, sales, and collaborations with other companies have made it one of the greatest video games in the world. So again, all of the criteria are laid out. You notice all of these thesis sentences have a sense of tension or conflict. So for instance, although it's not perfect, or although its development was by 2 people, it's now broadened out to become great. It might not be what was expected. So all of these have a sense of a mixed review, but generally lean toward the positive. And then here's the final one. Released 10 years after the original iPhone, iPhone X comes with many great features, physical appearance, and an all-new experience that makes the phone worth the price. So you may not think that that last sentence has a sense of conflict, but the phrase worth the price suggests that it's expensive, but it's worth it. And of course, expense will be a feature that's talked about in this particular paper. So think about that. Another place that you can go back to in order to construct your thesis is the PowerPoint in week 6 called Beginnings and Endings Guiding Your Reader. That is the PowerPoint that talked about the 4 T's: the title, thesis, transitions, and topic sentences. So I suggest you go back and read all of those. Topic sentences are another thing I wanted to mention, because many papers I read struggled with focus. And there were lots of different things thrown into the paper or into the individual body paragraphs. Remember, this is still an academic essay. I'm preparing you to write academic essays. If you're going to major in journalism or creative writing or rhetorical writing or some kind of other writing, then you'll, modify or shift the way you write into that mode. But for now, you should just be comfortable with writing regular academic essays that have an introduction and with a thesis sentence. The body paragraphs are focused and coherent, and then it goes into a conclusion. So that is another PowerPoint to go back to. Make sure you have a title. Make sure it is in proper MLA format. You can go to OWL Purdue online to find that proper MLA format. Many of you single-spaced your paper. Many of you put the 4 lines that are at the top of page 1 on all of the pages, and that's not acceptable. That little heading should only be on page 1. Many of you did not put your last name and page number in the upper right corner. I'm just getting you prepared for the MLA format, making sure that you have that correct. Let's talk about word choice and sentence structure. Edit yourself. That's one of the main things I want to say. Many of you will notice that I crossed out lots of sentences and phrases throughout. And I know that's disheartening to think that you wrote that and then the teacher comes back and just crosses it away. What I'm trying to do is get you to think concisely. So when you go back and remove those and read it, you'll notice that what was left out didn't really matter to the audience. Consider your rhetorical situation. Consider the purpose is to evaluate, but who is your audience? Your audience were your fellow classmates who read your papers for peer review, and me, and perhaps a tutor. So there are a few things we need to know, but it is 1,000 words. It's not a 2,000 word essay. And so you will need to cut down some of the ideas and phrases and sentences to make it tighter and more concise. Let's see, open the peer review folder, and you should be able to read the reviews that were done of your paper. Hopefully everybody did those and they weren't late. So if you don't have any now, go back in a couple of days and see if you have some. I apologize if they weren't all done, but they were automatically distributed to others. So the onus was on you to write your peer review so other people can go back and read the reviews that were written. Let me talk about research and citation. There are quite a few of you, I wouldn't say most, but enough that have incorporated research into your paper that you will need to be very careful about citation and plagiarism. Now, I'm not going to ask your works cited page to be perfect. I'm not going to ask your in-text citation to be perfect. In fact, I'm not introducing any of that until the next paper, which we're starting next week, and arguing a position paper. However, you do need to make sure that if you have directly quoted from a website that you put quotation marks and you cite it in text and you have a works cited page at the end. So anything that you looked up outside of your own head needs to be cited. Anything that is not your thought must be cited. And that's something to remember now and into the future as well. So those are the main things I saw in your paper. We're getting over 10 minutes here, so I obviously had a lot to say. One final thing I want to mention is that I'm going to drop one low daily grade this semester. So if you have a 0 already, I'm going to go ahead and drop that now, and that way you'll just have a blank. And that will actually raise your grade because we've only had one major paper grade. And it will raise your grade overall too. If you don't have a 0, or if you don't have a very low grade, I'll probably keep all of your grades in for now. What I'm going to do is drop the 0s that are there already. That'll be your one dropped grade, will be the 0. So anyway, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, and make sure you read all the comments. You still, finally, one last thing, have an opportunity for extra credit. So you'll want to send your essay to the tutoring. Quite a few of you did that last time, so I'm hoping you've done that again, and will do that again in the next couple of days. And then make sure you forward me the proof that you got tutoring from the Writing Center. Okay, guys, have a great weekend, and I will look forward to you submitting your papers by Sunday. Bye-bye.